I am sure you already know Atelier Venn, but today we're here to unveil a completely new chapter for the brand with a very special person. So buckle up and stay here in I Am Casa to discover something you didn't know. We're here with Robin.
Hi, Andrea.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Finally in Milan.
Yeah,
For
first time.
First time, exactly. And well, thank you so much. You brought some hits,
Yeah.
definitely. But before talking about this beautiful piece I've seen already in Geneva, that is really a new chapter, right?
Yeah, it is. It is a big one.
And
very big one.
more towards a totally different aesthetic. I wanted to, share some of your story.
Yep.
Because you remember we met at Waze Fondue.
Yeah, a very long time ago in 2022, I believe.
Maybe three, but
Maybe three, but
we were
a few years
both,
back.
I would say, fresh,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much,
yeah.
because you were not really launching, but it was
It was the beginning, yeah.
Yeah,
It was the early days.
definitely. I read a bit of your story. Well, first of all, you're one of the two co-founders of the brand.
Exactly, yeah.
You're the face we see more often, honestly,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're always around affairs.
We put Wilfried in the closet. Like,
Yeah.
He's locked there.
Yeah, indeed. I hope to meet him once. And the first time we met, you're still super passionate, but I was really thrilled by the fact that you took some time at the Bar de Paquis, which is not the most, the best place to talk
no.
about watches, but still, it was fun. And I think you started quite a movement.
Thank you.
But I always start with this question. For those who don't know you, how you would describe yourself? Who are you?
So, I mean, I'm the founder or co-founder of Atelier One. I think at the core, I'm passionate about Chinese watches. I've been collecting Chinese watches since I'm a kid, since I'm 14 years old. That's really what got me into watches. And till this day, it's still my main passion. I still buy like old Chinese watches. I have a collection of a few hundred pieces and I'm very nerdy about that.
I don't know anything about them. I would love to see them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one day if you come to France, I can show you some of those to you. But that's really how I got in watches. Like I was 14 years old when I started being interested, and it was my birthday. My parents, they gave me a Seiko, like a random Seiko, but it sort of triggered something inside me. And suddenly I started doing like research online, and I was like, oh, because I knew nothing about watches back then. And when I was reading like the forums, Watch Music, which was really big then, I was suddenly convinced I needed like a watch with a mechanical movement. And a few weeks after I received my Seiko, I went to my dad and I was like, oh dad, can you buy me an automatic Tissot Hamilton? And of course he refused. He was like, oh, it's really expensive for such a young kid, so basically get off. And so, I mean, I was a bit disappointed, but I still read online, and then I saw people talking about those vintage Chinese mechanical watches, and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting, and more importantly, they are pretty cheap, maybe for like 100 Chinese yuan, which back then was around 10 euros, you could get something decent. And I was lucky because my parents were going to China often, so the next summer we went together, and with my pocket money I bought my first one, second one, third one, and slowly after a few months and few years I got a lot of them, and I started sharing about those online, and it was very thrilling for me because it's as you said, it's a world that not a lot of people know about. It's very opaque, it's very mysterious. They made a lot of watches in this period in China, but there's very little information. There's like very basic ones, very rare ones, and it's a bit like a treasure hunt. You try to look for the meaningful one, the one with a good story. But anyhow, I was posting about that online, and then I got super lucky because there's like someone from the sort of administration of the watch industry in China, the Chinese Chamber of Watchmaking, that noticed me and that sort of approached me. And I was like in Beijing, and I met the guy, and that guy became my mentor, and that's really when the sort of like more professional then journey started.
Wow, you should really write a book about it.
No, it's not yet. Let's build more with Atelier One, and then we'll see.
Then you will really be in the book for sure. But would be interesting because I think Europe doesn't get a lot of anything, nor watches, information. There's not a culture here, but I really remember like the fact that you pushed a movement that I really think is interesting, of like proudly Chinese, and that's interesting because also you're French.
I am. It's pretty unusual. People they don't really understand why either Wilfried or myself do that, because none of us is Chinese. But for me, it's really, it's like I have this boundless love for like Chinese watches. And so when I met my mentor, he took me around, like, because I was 1 year studying in Peking University in Beijing, and he took me around and we went to visit the movement makers, the dial makers, even some of like the HCI watchmakers. And what was really cool for me was that obviously there was something about the quality, but sort of maybe I knew about that because I was buying the watches, but there was also something about the passion of the people. You could meet those people who've been doing that for all their life and who would really love what they do. They would like breeze their job every day, and I thought it's kind of a cool aspect that no one really sees. And I sort of like, when I had this idea that, oh, maybe we should do something to celebrate that passion, that culture. When I would move back to the UK, and I told some of my watch collector friends about that, no one really believed in it. And I thought, oh, it's a bit unfair, because the image of like made in China watches, at least back then, it was either black or white, and for most people it was very negative. Like they had a very sort of like it was like two extremes, it couldn't be in the middle. There couldn't be good and bad things, but either good or bad, and yeah, for most it was bad. So I thought, yeah, maybe I should make a brand that sort of shows that aspect that I like, I'm passionate about. Maybe some other people will resonate with it because it's cool. And Wilfried was into it because he's born and raised in Hong Kong, lived most of his life between Hong Kong and Beijing, so he also does feel strongly about Chinese culture, initially not so much about the watches.
So you started your journey professionally in watchmaking. What were you doing before?
Also, I was just studying. So I started this in 2018, straight out of like uni. Basically, when we were doing our year of master, we got designs made, prototypes made. I was just like begging some of my friends that I met through my mentor to make prototypes for cheap for us. And by the time we graduated, we had like something like 4 working prototypes. And then we were like, okay, so what do we do, because none of us wanted to do that full time. I mean, I wanted to go to like consulting, and I think Wilfried wanted to go to like tech startups. But we thought, I mean, since we have a prototype, might as well just give it a go. So we put it on Kickstarter.
I saw that.
And it did much better than we thought it would do. We sold quite a few of them, and then suddenly we had to make those watches that we sold. So we both moved to Hong Kong, and for 2 years we were making those watches, selling them, designing new watches, and but none of us, really expected we would be doing that.
That's interesting, because basically watches changed both our lives.
Yeah.
And that's weird, because maybe you think you're gonna be someone else, and then
I thought, I mean, I was studying in the UK. I thought I would stay in the UK. Like I could already see the sort of like career path. Like all my friends were doing the same thing. I was like, I'm gonna do the same thing. But yeah, no, it completely like changed all the plans. I think it's really disrupted everything, even for Wilfried, because Wilfried initially has no interest at all in watches.
What do you think was your key to success with the first like Kickstarter campaign?
I think it's like, for the first one, it was just like so unexpected of people to see a watch like this. Like when we launched it, I think it was the most expensive ever, like non-precious metal, non-complication Chinese watch.
Okay.
And it was just like radically different from anything that was existing. If you wanted to buy a watch from a Chinese brand with no special feature, no precious metal, no precious like materials like diamonds and whatnot, there wouldn't be any high-end stuff or even premium stuff. It would be like very functional, it would be very basic. So I think that first watch, and I mean, it wasn't a perfect watch. If today you were to ask me to redo it, I would do it very differently. But still, it was like a very novel and maybe breakthrough product to a lot of people. So I think just that unique positioning, it interested people. I think it was also very good on value, because it was like, on Kickstarter, it was even less than $500, and you had a porcelain dial, which was very good value. Maybe the case, the movement, they're all pretty basic, but yeah, the dial was pretty cool for that price. So I think this is what made it like somewhat a success.
And did you have a lot of Chinese clients? that bought it?
A few.
Okay.
Actually, like, you know, like selling in China, I mean, in mainland China at least, is very different from selling in the rest of the world. They don't have like .com e-commerce.
Okay,
They don't go to the website brand to buy. The channels are very different. Maybe they go on JD, on Tmall. Back then, we actually tried to kickstart that. We were like, oh, actually, the bigger market would be in China. We were wrong. But still, for a few months, we had created those channels. You could buy the watches on like Tmall. So yeah, we did have like a few customers there. We made a big launch party in Beijing. It was a big waste of time and money, but still, we didn't know, you know, it was pretty fun.
I was really curious about that because my question was like, are they proud as you are, and so are they supporting for that?
So it's very hard, you know, to make like generalizations about the Chinese market. I think like we definitely had customers, and those customers were maybe more like very specialized customers.
Okay.
Like they had a lot of watches, and those guys were receptive to the message. They're like, okay, I understand, and also they were interested because, you know, they had so many watches, they wanted something different, and they liked the idea of like having something from their own country. If you ask, however, the man in the street, I think the luxury brands, they did a really good marketing job, and so even in China, like above a certain price, I think most watch customers, they will like, no, I want something Swiss, I want something German, I don't want something local. But that being said, every year the threshold, the ceiling is sort of like going up and up and up. So who knows, maybe in a few years there will be like real demand in China for like proudly made local watches.
That's interesting because I think it's happening all around the world. We will talk about it later, but it shows a French movement. Like there's a lot going on. We have in Italy this as well. It's building up. But you chose a difficult path because Chinese and French and not Swiss. Why?
Yeah, because it's just our passion. You know, at the end of the day, yeah, we could have done something that was more aligned with the market trends, but then like, you know, what does it mean to you? To us, not much. Like this project, we were really in it because we wanted to change people's perceptions on Made in China, because we cared about it. Like at the core, that was like what was driving us on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, that's simply why the thing was like we wanted to do something meaningful, something that mattered to us.
So 2022, we had Perception that I think changed your history totally.
Perception was our big moment because I mean, we also changed a lot of stuff with Perception. Like we learned our lessons. The first watch, the porcelain ones, we had put a fairly low price, which in turn also constrained the quality of the watches. So most of the budget went into the dial for the porcelain one, but maybe the case, the movements, they were fairly basic. But that's because at the beginning we were like, you know, the maximum people would pay for a Chinese watch was XXX. So then we built everything so that it fits that budget. However, with Perception, we took a different approach. We were like, okay, we're gonna make the coolest watch possible. We'll see how much that costs to make, and then we'll like sell it at a reasonable price. And I think that approach resonated with people better because it was not just, okay, we're putting a dial and the rest is crap. It was like, it was a nice dial, a nice case, a nice bracelet, a nice movement, and all in all, a more coherent watch. So yeah, Perception 2022, Guilloche dial, like the first times like you had like a Guilloche dials made in China by the only person doing that in China, the first and only one back then, and now he has a few disciples, so he's not the only one, but he's still the first. Yeah, he actually like expanded a lot his workshop. He teaches at a local college, so no, it's building up. But that watch is really the one that changed things for us. It got really noticed, really picked. I think the timing was pretty good because it was the years of integrated bracelet. I think Guilloche was kind of going up, but not many people were doing it. So timing-wise, yeah, the watch was very well positioned, and no, it did fairly well. So then I left my finance job. I went back full-time to Atelier One. And yeah, since then been sort of like building it up, the team, the collections, obviously.
Yeah, you did quite a nice job. Now it's also like the company has grown.
Yeah, it has. Now the team, because initially it was just Wilfried and I, so now it's like, what, 8 of us? So no, it's very different. It is very different.
How you feel now?
Yeah, it's good. To me, it's always a bit unreal, you know, that like people actually buy those watches, like my watches, that there's always this kind of tendency to see that as, oh, it's just your small projects, like how can it be real, but it's very nice. So you see a very rewarding feeling to see that actually people do care about those and they do enjoy
you
those.
see,
And it's not
during the
just
fairs you see them.
your parents and friends and family that get them. It's actually random people that you've not heard about and that you will never meet maybe. That were them and are happy with them. So no, that's the best feeling. Actually, once it was in a. Because my dad always kind of doubted the thing a bit, like he was like, oh, you should go back to your finance job or do something a bit
so
more.
So it's the same for you and for me.
Yeah, I think it's the same with every parent. But once, because my sister lives in Singapore, once we were in Singapore in a random supermarket and someone recognized me. And my dad was with me, and then he was very shocked. He was like, "Oh my God, his thing must be real." And since this day, then he doesn't question it anymore. Now he's like #1 supporter.
I love that so much. Oh, fantastic! So 2022 changed everything in the company. You did various editions as well. You've been working on a lot.
We did with Ruscheck, like the first ever collab, and Ellie we did very nice jade green dial, different guilloche pattern. That was really good. We did some with Revolution. We did a total of, we did a lot. We did 4 with Revolution, 2 with Ruscheck, including 1 with Seconde. That was pretty cool. Romaric is the best. We were really working on like getting more perception out. Initially, we had some kind of supply issues because Master Chunk, the guilloche, couldn't really keep up with the demand. So there was this long period of backlog. We of course had some manufacturing issues because it's quite a complex watch, so like to fit the guilloche into all that, the questions of tolerances, the micro adjustment of the buckle, all that took a bit of fine tuning, but then eventually it sort of got there. But very quickly after we launched Perception, we were like, okay, now we need to work on the new collections, and to avoid the same mistakes as we had before, we should work on multiple of them from now. So the one that you have there is sort of the first one to be ready, but that took like 3 years.
And there's others on the pipeline.
There's others.
We're hearing this, but yeah, this is a completely new chapter. The aesthetic is really different from Perception, still having a lot of like Chinese culture in it for what I see, but everything has changed. There's no integrated bracelet.
Oh yeah, I know. It's this watch it's pretty significant for us because we wanted the series that follow Perception to has as little, let's say, like design overlap with Perception as possible. So we're like, okay, the second one is not gonna be another integrated bracelet. It's not gonna be a small swatch. It's not gonna be a diver. We're gonna make a dressy watch. So yeah, it's significant in the sense that it really opens up Atelier One to sort of like a new design category. And this watch took a lot of time to develop because for our designer, Alfred, we were like, okay, we're gonna make a dressy watch, but obviously it needs to be us, it needs to be unique. And if you think about it, dressy watches, most of them, they have a round case. And so we wanted to have a round case, but there's not that many ways of doing a round case. And so the question became, okay, how can we make like a round case that is quite unique, that is us, Atelier One, and also that is not looking weird? Because of course it's easy to make something that's unique and weird, but something that's unique and crowd-pleasing, that's harder. So that really took a lot of time for Alfred, our designer.
Wow. It's fantastic. You have some very interesting design elements, both on this watch. It really looks like a chemin de fer.
Yeah.
But it's not at all. And
but it's meant like to be like a chemin de fer, except that you have this Chinese pattern called a Huiwen pattern, which is like a pattern that is sort of there for like good luck, good fortune.
Okay.
It's actually one of the little like signatures of the brand. That's something we started with the porcelain pieces, and then like people actually liked it. So on every watch we make, we try to add one that we sort of tweak to the particular format of the dial. It's one of our signatures. The other signature you have as well is the hands. They're always like leaf hands. Again, we adapt them. Like, in Perception it's leaf hands with loom. Here it's like leaf hands with a lot of like work on the texturing, on the volume and whatnot. But yeah, that's also one of our signatures.
Yeah, you did quite a nice job. The hands are really, really good looking. And
Thank you.
you speak Mandarin, I guess.
No, I don't.
No,
But
you don't?
Wilfried does. I mean,
Okay.
I do a tiny bit, but it's very lame. Wilfried, however, is very good at Mandarin.
Because I always feel like you have a good pronunciation of the words, but
No, I just fool you. That's how I do.
love it. So what's super interesting about this watch, in my opinion, is you chose a completely different path, and I'm curious if it's gonna be the path, because you came out with an integrated bracelet
Yeah.
a bit in the beginning of the era.
Yeah.
So I think if that was right and this is right, this is the new era of watches.
I hope so. That's the question. In all fairness with you, I don't think like so. I think dress watches are a bit different. Like maybe they are less like
Trend.
cyclical and trend related
Yeah.
than integrated bracelets. I think there's always a demand for like dress watches because those are like more timeless pieces. But I do feel that maybe now brands are starting to put a bit more emphasis and focus on them again. So yeah, hopefully it's a good timing. We'll see, I guess.
So you chose a different path from the
Yeah.
usual, because also it's yes a dress watch, but in a very bold way somehow. So first of all, size is
38.
it doesn't look 38 at all.
What does it look like?
It fits the wrist well, honestly.
Nice.
To me, like, you know, I have a very small wrist, honestly. That's why perception is like the limit.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
I can wear it. I like to wear it, but it's on the edge somehow. Here we don't really. It's not big for my wrist. It feels really like a dress watch, and I don't think
Thank you.
that a big watch could be a dress watch. What's super interesting is, again, you chose a watch that, yes, is round, it's subtle somehow, but there's a lot going on. We see some spare,
Yeah.
like some, not spare parts, but like assembly parts here.
Yep.
First of all, the dial is really interesting. This is like numerals, Chinese numerals,
Yep.
or okay,
Those are Chinese numerals.
okay.
Actually, so yeah, I mean, you know, the dial is always our first focus. I hope that with this watch, we also managed to elevate the rest, so the case, the movement,
Yeah,
the
you
hands
did.
and whatnot. But yeah, this dial is pretty special because it's instead of having one craft like we did with Perception, we have two of them. So it's first hand hammered. Which
Okay.
is pretty unusual at this kind of price. So yeah, you can see this is like a 925 silver base that is hand hammered. It's pretty tricky to make because it looks deceptively easy, but actually the person that does that, she needs to make sure that the consistency of the pattern is right. But at the same time, it shouldn't look like it's made by a machine. So it cannot be like too consistent and too regular, but it also cannot be too irregular. So there's this kind of like artistic skill that is involved in that. And at the same time, also, when she does it, it shouldn't bend too much, the silver plate. And it's a very thin
yes.
silver plate, because if it bends too much, then when we apply the enamel, the gradient that we want to achieve will not be right. So it's pretty tricky. It takes a few hours. Actually, they have this kind of like long tool that have like a sort of sharp hands, and they come with a hammer and they hit that long tool and they do like thousands of like hits on that to really create
takes
the right
hours
pattern.
too.
It takes hours, and
Wow.
and yeah, I guess it's in French we call it martelage.
Sì, martellato in Italian.
Yes,
Hammered.
it's the same. Yeah, hammered, exactly.
This is like the fin, like the polished.
So this one
version of it.
is more or less the same, except that this one is a bit more flat. But you can
Yeah.
notice the differences. Like I think this one is it's a failed one. Like for like they couldn't go really all the way, so
Yeah.
that went to the bin. But yeah, it's pretty interesting because then each watch is therefore unique. And it has its own pattern, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we start with that, and then we obviously the star of the show is the enamel.
Yeah.
And we
This is the dégradé.
yes, it's a gradient, but the gradient is like super strong. We really try to work a lot on that, and the goal was to have the sort of like maybe the widest chromatic range possible. So you see in the center it's like white, and then it's like light blue, medium blue, dark blue, and then almost black. And that's tricky because the wider the gradient, the more shades you need to have,
Yeah.
and therefore the more firings you need to do with the enamel. And every time you do one more firing, it's one more chance of failure, one more chance for things to go wrong. So that's pretty hard. And after each like firing, they come, they polish the dial, they break the bubbles, then they apply enamel again, fired again, and it's really a tricky dial to make.
Wow. And then you chose diamonds.
Yeah, so that like
It's interesting.
It's interesting because I think the perceptions on diamonds have changed a lot. Like maybe a few years back, I don't know how it is in Italy, but I feel like especially in the US maybe, like people saw stones as very feminine, as like a piece of jewelry.
Or very loud.
Oh, very loud. But I think
Yeah.
now, especially for like simpler cuts, like baguette, people, they just see that as an alternative material for things.
Okay.
And in this case, like, I think they see it just as an alternative material for applied indexes.
Yeah, of course. But
And for me, the rationale was that, you know, like enamel is kind of buying some kind of glass, and
Okay.
diamonds are also some kind of glass.
Okay.
And it was very interesting to have different transparent surfaces to just play with light in different ways. I think that really makes the dial a bit more vivid and dynamic, and also it kind of balances the smaller diameter of the watch, because you know, you make a 38 watch, you don't want it to feel empty and boring.
No, at all.
So for me, it was like, okay, it's smaller, but we really need to make sure we have the best depth, the best volume,
Yeah.
the best 3Dness, and that's how the diamonds like help with this.
yeah, and I think it helps a lot with the light as well, because then you have a lot of light
Yeah.
play, and the alternation between, you know,
Yeah.
numerals,
Diamond.
baguettes. Yeah.
It's super hard to actually, the diamonds. I think most people don't see that, but that's maybe the number one difficulty of this dial. How do you set the diamonds in the enamel? And initially what we tried to do was to have some kind of borders which are already soldered on the silver base, and in which we don't put enamel. But when we were trying that, we noticed that, you know, after each firing, the dial may expand or sort of like retract. And so then the dimensions of the border were never the right ones, and we couldn't put the clothes that hold the diamonds. So now we came up with a new process in which after the dial is fired and is good to go, we laser etch the recesses. But it's pretty tricky because it's super easy to have the dial crack. So again, this is pretty hard, yeah.
And what are your plans for this? Because I see there are like other two elements, the lugs that
Yeah.
are screwed on,
Yep,
which is a very interesting element. Also, it makes it kind of, you know, like a fancy lugs, like
Yeah.
back in the days. That is.
So those lugs, they are really, you know, I was telling you the case was hard to design, but I think the lugs were really what made the case both unique and crowd-pleasing. So those lugs are inspired by some ancient jade sculptures from China called the Hongshan Jade Dragons. And those are actually like from the Hongshan era is like a Neolithic era, so it's quite a few years back. And what's interesting about those is that they are the very first representations of the concept of the dragon. This is when the concept of the dragon was invented. So there is this kind of like cultural meaningfulness and relevance in having been inspired by them. And also those sculptures, they were the very first time that in China they made like art pieces that had no functional purpose. You know, before those, of course, they would make like vases, plates, bowls, and they would be very nice and they would require a lot of skills, but they had a function, you know, it's to eat, to drink. But those like jade sculptures, they had no functions besides being like good looking. And to me, that's the actual definition of art, you know, something which only purpose is to be itself. And so, I really like those sculptures, and I felt, oh, it's pretty cool. It can look like some lugs, so that's pretty fun and meaningful. The second cool thing about about having the screwed lugs is that we can therefore finish them separately from the mid case.
I see there's a lot of finishing on the case, and also.
And you can have, therefore, very contrasting finish. You can see the tip is like super polished, and then here it's like lightly brushed. And I think if this had been a one-piece like mid-case, it wouldn't have been possible.
No, not at all. And you created a very nice contrast as well. I see the carreau is polished, and it's kind of a bit domed, and you have a great surface here. That there's a lot of things to see and to play with the watch, which makes it not the the average time only and classic
Thank
watch.
you.
I'm very happy, and I think it's really kind of a watch that is not meant to just be for special occasions. It's a watch that you can.
No, it's meant to be every day. I mean, the goal always is to have something that is like nice to look at on the wrist, and that brings you sort of like happiness when you wear it. So that's what we try to do with all those details, so that it sort of never gets boring. You look at it, and every time you can notice some new details, some new facets, some new ways as to how it plays with light, with the environment. So that's really what we try to do. I don't want to do a dress watch that is quote unquote useless. I want to do something that's going to be meaningful, so that the person who gets it, they can really enjoy it. And yeah, that's what all those small details are there for.
And you have the French side as well. You were telling me.
So that's a big novelty for us, because beforehand as you know, we were only using Chinese movements, but this time we're using a French movement. And the reason is at the core, when we started doing perceptions, every time we sell some, we actually ask customers for their opinion of what they like less. And invariably, the feedback is always, okay, what they prefer is the dial, what they like the least is the movement. And then we ask them, why do you like the movement the least? And they say, well, it's the power reserve is fairly standard, but we wish we could have more. There's no hacking, maybe the accuracy could be a bit better. So we're like, okay, fair enough. And we tried to make a movement that could do that in China, but the truth is that we couldn't, because I think there's still some, in terms of alloys, for the barrel, for the escapement, there's still some that are not available there. So then we looked for a movement outside of China, but I didn't want to use Sellita, La Joux-Perret, ETA, because I think in the mind of people, they are pretty standards. There's nothing too interesting about them.
Indeed.
And also, performance is very comparable to what we have on our Chinese movement. And that's when I stumbled upon Pekinier, and actually their movement is pretty good. It's 65-hour power reserve, chronometer accuracy, hacking, hand winding. They have a very efficient auto winding system with Peloton inverters, what they do on Grand Seiko and IWC. And I thought, that's really good. And what's more, there's also this degree of meaningfulness, because Wilfried and I are French, so it sort of maybe appeals to the atelier side of Atelier One. For us, we also like the idea of supporting the last and only actual French manufacturer. They are really small, but they are really good, they are really passionate, they are really determined, and we could feel the same kind of passion that no one really know about as we could feel in China. So we're okay, that's also something worthy putting in the forelight. And so that's the movement. But the decoration is pretty special.
That's it. I was looking at it, because do they do writing on their their core collection for the brand?
No, they don't do it like that. So this deco is really ours. And the idea was that, okay, we are going to use a French movement, but we still need to have the Chinese cultural elements. And so what we did is that we etched in 3D with very high precision lasers and extract from an old piece of Chinese poetry called the Heavenly Questions. And this is actually a poem about the meaning of life, about why we're on this planet. And we really liked it because it's 2,200 years old, but the question it asks are still very relevant today. And those are still questions we ask ourselves. And so we enjoy this idea of having a kind of connection through time, a kind of time travel via the movement. And so we etch it with those very high precision lasers. It's very complex because the plate may bend if you etch too much. So Pekinier went to a very specialized supplier in Switzerland to do it. There's also nice other elements of finishing. You have machine-made anglage, the escapement bridge and the ratchet return wheel, they are black polished.
Okay, fantastic. And you have the pattern.
Of course, always.
Which is super nice. Always. You lost the dragon back there, because that was a nice trick.
That was a fun one.
That was a very fun one. The first time I saw it, I was like, That's the best open case
Thank
back
you.
with not a, superb movement inside
yeah.
that I could see.
Thank you,
Because
thank
the
you.
one you did with Way, I remember.
Yeah.
Because the Oscillating Max was red.
Yeah, it was color match with the dial on
Ah,
all
was
the LEs.
fantastic,
We
'cause
color match.
that was
yeah.
really like the mouth of the dragon.
Yeah,
that was fun.
That was a fun one, and it was a bit like, I'm not gonna say cheesy, but slightly. But it's something
in a
that
good
you
way.
keep for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a bit fun, but you don't need to show it to everyone.
No, you just
It's really
you
for
stumble on it,
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
and that's so much fun. But no, you did a great job. So I was very curious about a couple of things.
Yeah.
First of all, this is different, as you said, different quality of the movement compared to what you did before. You have diamonds, you have enamel.
Yep.
What's gonna be the price point?
So this watch is gonna be sold at like $5,850
Which I
US
think is
dollars.
Still very fair.
Thank you. It's gonna be a limited edition.
Okay.
Not in so there's no preset volume. It's going to be available for 7 days.
Okay.
And then after that it will be retired. And then next year in 2026 we will introduce the sort of maybe core variants, of that collection with non-limited dials. So it's really a collection we want to stay. We want that to stay for a long time. I mean, we spent a lot of efforts on developing that case. So yeah, after this launch edition, there will be more variants and similar with Perception. We'll have some core, but they will be quite different from this one. This
You
one
could do unique pieces as well on this one.
it's too complex. Honestly,
Okay.
it's a lot of hassle. It's a lot of hassle just to develop that dial. Initially we were thinking, maybe we do other colors, we do red, we do green. It just took us so much time to get the gradient right on the blue that we're like, no, it's only gonna be one. Because this is the launch edition, we decided to go a bit crazier, and that's why you have the diamonds, that's why you have the Chinese characters. Those Chinese characters actually were designed by a calligrapher in Hong Kong. They are like not standard fonts. She drew them. Yeah.
Again, what would be the name of the collection in this case?
So it's called Ancestra.
Okay.
And the reason why we call it Ancestra is because of that story with the Jade Dragons, because it's a very ancestral, like Chinese heritage elements. So we like the idea of going back to the roots, going back to the beginnings, and that's hence the name. There's also a bit of personal meaning, because when we started this brand, we started with a dressy collection, and so we're going back to that. We're going back to our own roots, hence Ancestra.
Fantastic, and also the poem itself is a bit ancestral.
Yeah, as well, because it asks a lot about the meaning of life, but it also asks. It also has a lot of references to very early mythological Chinese stories. So it's a very pillar, foundational piece of literature. And with the watch, we'll actually give a little transcription of what this means. And as well as a translation and a loop, so that people can actually see the text.
No, I would love to see that. I'm very curious about it. So, is it going to be water resistant as well?
Yeah, 100 meters.
Yeah,
you shouldn't put the leather strap in the water.
Sure.
But yeah, still 100 meters. It's a screwed crown. No, we don't want being a dressy watch, being an excuse for doing something to a lesser standard.
Thank you.
So it's still resistant as it should be.
I think this is what we need now.
Yeah.
Dress watches are meant to go around, and if you put another strap on this one,
then you could put it in the water.
I totally see this on the seaside, honestly.
Yeah,
totally. I would love that. I would love that.
On the side of the lake.
Exactly. We're talking lakes before. Oh, fantastic. Do you feel you've changed something in the industry today?
I don't know. I think it would be a bit arrogant to say so, and I think we need to stay humble.
Indeed, but I think you aren't. But I feel that.
But I think that I think maybe now people are more accepting of more and more at least accepting of made in China and quality being sort of in the same room, in the same sentence.
That's what I'm feeling. There's a lot coming up from China, which is.
And I don't know if you saw recently, LV, they announced the LVMH watch prize semi-finalists, and I think that's 4 Chinese makers. So you can definitely see it's on the up. A few years back, I think like they would have been known. I mean, the price didn't exist, but anyhow, like those were unheard of, and now that there's four, and actually when you read people like comments and reactions, they're like, those are really cool watches. So yeah, I do see that there's a trend on the rise, and the more people join this, the more like we'll get the awareness up there, like, and I think the more also will grow the pie. So quite happy to see how things are evolving.
Me too. I'm very happy to see this because again, when you talked to me the first time, everything was very different.
Yeah,
very different. So I could not expect that to grow that much, and I'm very happy. What about perception? On the other hand, are you still doing this?
Perception is still staying. Like perception is really one of our core releases. There's gonna be more to perception sometimes this year, so we'll introduce novelties. Like we really want the range to stay and the range to stay dynamic. So it's been a while since we introduced a new perception. That there was not a limited edition. Actually, it's been 3 years. So we'll have some nice surprises on that front. No, perception is that like what I really want to do now is to lay out what could be the pillars of the brand. And I think to be a brand, you can't just have one collection. You need a few. You need a few that will appeal to different tastes, different kinds of people. So perception is the first one. This is the second one. Maybe there will be a third one.
Seeing the approach you put into a bit of art, a bit of boldness with the diamonds, I appreciate that because it's still fun, but without overdoing, and I gladly appreciate it. Are we ever gonna see a precious metal version of it?
Honestly, I'd wish. I like precious metal. I think the price of gold those days is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And it's really hard because, if tomorrow we were to buy gold, we would buy at such a high price. I think some brands bought it in smarter ways. So then if you charge what you need to charge, I think it's hard for people to buy that. I think platinum is maybe more interesting those days. It's heavier, so I really like heavy watches. And it's also a bit more accessible. Yeah, I know. I have this fascination for tantalum, but not ruling out precious metal. Honestly, though, at this stage we struggle a lot to bring this one out, to design it, to prototype it. It was a nightmare. So right now we're gonna get this one out, then we're gonna make them afterwards. Maybe.
Yeah, that's why I'm not asking too much about the future because you're just releasing a watch. So rude
We're super slow, honestly. I think I don't know how some brands they release 2 things every year. Us it takes us 3 years to do a new model. So it's very slow.
It doesn't also burn what you do because otherwise when there's too much, I think it gets lost, and that's
and you want things that will really be meaningful, like things that you don't release for the sake of releasing, but things that you release because they made sense, at least to you. And so that's what we try to do here.
And how is Italy for you? Like the Italian market, Italian collectors, what's the feedback?
Honestly, it's a tiny market for us.
Imagine.
I think we've sold a few perception, but not that many. I don't know much about the Italian market. My assumption is that in structure, it's a bit like the French market. So I saw that in France, for instance, they will consume French media in French. They will be language will be a big barrier, and then they will want to stay within the French ecosystem. Maybe Italian is the same. Maybe we need to do more content with Italian content creators.
It's similar, but I think this is a even more appealing watch to
I hope so. Collectors. I know that Italian collectors are very trend-setting. Like the baguette and things. Like they were early on it. You look at all those Italian dealers. They were dealing the stuff before they got hot again. Like all the vintage Piaget, Cartier that are
and
super hot
enamel
those
as
days.
well. Is very much in our culture. I don't know why, because we don't actually produce that much enamel, but we buy. For sure.
Maybe because of the glass. You guys produce a lot of glass, so there's similarities. But hopefully they will like it. I do hope so. Let's see.
We're gonna see.
Yeah.
Let us know, guys. Well, Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
for being
Andrea.
with me. It's a pleasure. I'm gonna keep the watch on my wrist for a bit, if you don't mind.
No, of course you can.
Fantastic. Congrats. Ancestral is really nice, and thanks for sharing your story, which is always, I did know a bit before, but it's always inspiring, and it's also a bit of the story of how to change your life following your passion, which is honestly, to me, very,
And
you know.
stress out your parents.
But I mean, they're always stressed.
Yeah,
anyhow.
no, it's their role.
In the end, guys, thank you
Thank you so much.
following us along. Let us know if you do like the Ancestral and what you think about the brand in general and what is your favorite moment of the video. Follow both of us. So I am Kaza and Atelier Van, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being with us, and see you next video.
Thank you so much.